Okay, let's get this out of the way. For whatever reason, I promised my wife she could throw something at me.
Mr. President!
Do I want to turn around?
Everything is okay.
I'm gonna slowly turn around.
Everything's fine.
That was a best case scenario, honestly. We got real lucky with that one. I'm gonna leave that there for this recording.
Listen, I was aiming for your head through the viewfinder. That would have hurt, actually, if I had actually hit your head fully.
It's heavy, but I don't think it would have hurt. Might have taken me off the couch for a second. Perfect. The frog collection continues.
Isn't Belly Bolt a toad?
Is Belly Bolt a toad or frog? Based on likely the Cuyaba dwarf frog. Where are we going with this bit?
I don't know.
I don't know where this is going. Are you staying in here?
Play your role.
There is something in this world that allows us to appreciate what's in front of us. There's something that allows us to assign value to things, to embrace what we have, to decide that something makes our lives and us better simply by being there. The thing that we assign value to could be an emotion, it could be an experience, or it could be a word, a phrase, an item, or even a memory. It could be a person, a core belief. Regardless of what that thing might be, we have decided that we care about it. And what allows us to appreciate it and decide that we want it in our lives is, somewhat ironically, the exact antithesis of it. The thing that allows us to assign value to something in our presence is loss. Because without the absence of something, we cannot miss it. Without it being gone, we cannot wish it was present. Without the concept of nothing, of loss, of absence, we cannot truly appreciate anything. And that makes it so much more interesting and impactful and painful. There's something about the active decision to deprive something from someone else because it is what is necessary to accomplish a larger goal. There's a lot of ways you could describe this feeling, this phenomenon, but most would use the word sacrifice. And it is incredible how much sacrifice is truly the greatest and most painful thing we can ever do for each other. And it's why some of the most important moments in stories that we read, some of the most impactful moments in the movies that we watch, come not from moments of triumph, but instead a moment of sacrifice. So let's talk about that.
Everything that you thought had meaning, every hope, dream, or moment of happiness, none of it matters as you lie bleeding out on the battlefield. None of it changes what a speeding rock does to a body. We all die. But does that mean our lives are meaningless? Does that mean that there was no point in our being born? Would you say that of our slain comrades? What about their lives? Were they meaningless? They were not! Their memory serves as an example to us all! The courageous fallen, the anguished fallen, their lives have meaning because we, the living, refuse to forget them. And as we ride to certain death, we trust our successors to do the same for us! Because my soldiers do not buckle or yield when faced with the cruelty of this world! My soldiers push forward! My soldiers scream out! My soldiers rage! No.
When a character makes a heroic sacrifice, it resonates deeply with an audience. It's a moment that transcends the simple narrative, reaching into our hearts and pulling on the strings of our emotions. This is because sacrifice embodies the ultimate act of selflessness, the willingness to give up everything for the sake of others. In that one moment, a character's motivations, growth, and ultimate purpose are laid bare, creating a profound bond between the story and the audience. Sacrifice is more than just giving something up. It's about choosing to let go of something valuable, often for the greater good. In storytelling, this concept holds a special place because it reveals the true heart of a character, and even the story itself at some points. A well-crafted sacrifice shows what the character values most and what they're willing to endure or lose to protect it, even their lives. I've made a few videos recently talking about sacrifices.
From the screen to the ring to the pen to the king.
The first being the sacrifice of Sam Riegel's character in Campaign 3 of Critical Role, and of course my video discussing the trend of fart buckle on TikTok. Sacrifice as a storytelling device has been on my mind for some time because of those things. It's fascinating how these moments, whether in a high stakes campaign or a viral trend, can leave a lasting impact, and it also got me asking, what makes a sacrifice honestly feel truly earned? And what doesn't make it feel earned? Let's take a closer look at an example of sacrifice that certainly invokes strong feelings in audiences, but perhaps not the ones that they wanted. Luke Skywalker is a character who has been a symbol of hope, bravery, and resilience for literal generations of audiences. From his humble beginnings on Tatooine to his transformation into a Jedi Knight, Luke's journey is one of growth and self-discovery all throughout. His story has been deeply ingrained in the hearts of fans for decades, but that also puts it under intense scrutiny. And so, of course, when he made his big screen re-debut in 2017, there was a lot of excitement to see his return and to see how the character had grown over the years. And if only they had been prepared for what that actually was going to mean for the character of Luke Skywalker. I feel no need to put a spoiler warning, but just in case, there's the squirrel, just in case you haven't seen any of the newer Star Wars movies and all the controversy that they sparked. But Luke is just a far cry from the character that he would be known as in the original story. And a lot of people recognize that. Not just diehard fans and people on the internet who have way too much time on their hands, but even the man himself, Mark Hamill, who played Luke, was clearly not enthused. He recognized that this was not the character he had once played and wasn't happy about that fact.
What's the biggest difference from when we last saw Luke in the end of Return of the Jedi to when we meet him now in The Last Jedi?
That's the mystery of the ages. Since it's no longer my story and there's a new protagonist, I had to try and fill in that for myself. It's not important to the story, but it is for the actor to try and figure out, who is this guy? How did the most optimistic, hopeful character in the galaxy turn into this hermit who says it's time for the Jedi to end? I read that and I said, what? I mean, that's not what a Jedi does. I mean, a Jedi is optimistic. A Jedi has tenacity. He never gives up. He doesn't secrete himself on an island.
This character was jaded, bitter. He was the absolute antithesis of the entire journey that Luke had gone on up until this point. And so when we get to the point in the story where Luke chooses to sacrifice himself, it doesn't feel earned because it's not the character that we know. Nothing has caused us to connect with this Luke in the way that we connected with the original one. So why would that hit? It's almost like watching a character we've never seen before die. And the movie treats it like it's a big deal, but we, as an audience, kind of sit there and go, I didn't get to see the character I actually truly cared about. Now, for obvious reasons, this sacrifice did not hit. Not because necessarily it was done badly. In fact, if you look at it from a simple cinematic level, it was actually really good. The set piece, the action, the reason for his sacrifice, the person he's facing down, all of it genuinely does work in the best of ways, but no one liked it because it did something extremely controversial and, from a storytelling perspective, straight up wrong. It betrayed the character and killed him before there could be any kind of redemption for the action of betraying the character. Ultimately, this entire sacrifice is bent on the entire point that Luke was a disappointment and that he tried to kill Kylo Ren. And his sacrifice was meant to redeem him for that fact, but it was too little too late because the action of trying to kill Kylo Ren was literally exactly opposite of the journey that Luke had gone on in the original story. So a sacrifice must tie back into the story that we've seen up until this point, the characters that we've seen up until this point, and it must resonate with the actions. In fact, just tonight, I went and saw the third Venom movie. Now, spoilers for that. Spoiler squirrel again. We're gonna keep doing that, I guess. And at the end of the story, again, spoilers, Venom sacrifices his life. I personally didn't find that at all impactful. Now, regardless of the fact that the movie itself was really weird and poorly written and felt like several scripts were stitched together all at once in some sort of Frankenstein's monster, the actual sacrifice didn't hit because the entire movie, it seems like Eddie doesn't like Venom. He's tired of him being there. He doesn't want to be there. He keeps fantasizing about his life without Venom. And then suddenly Venom dies and we're meant to feel bad that Eddie gets to have his life back now? I mean, at what point do we actually care about this? Not only that, Venom's actions towards Eddie are directly harmful, rude, and painful to him for the entire story, and now that he's gone, why are we supposed to feel bad? It feels like a weird direction to take the movie, especially compared to the previous two movies. So therefore, yeah, another sacrifice that just doesn't hit well. It's disappointing. And so all of this goes to say, a sacrifice can be an incredibly powerful moment, but you have to understand what makes the sacrifice powerful. So what about the opposite? What about when it just hits right? What about when a sacrifice is just perfect for your character.
Tomo!
No, Tomo. I'm Superman.
Okay, Superman, take this!
In 1999, an American animated science fiction film was produced by Warner Bros. And made its feature debut. Based on the 1968 novel The Iron Man by Ted Hughes, it was directed by Brad Bird in his directorial debut. The film starred the voices of known stars Jennifer Aniston, Harry Connick Jr., and Vin Diesel, while being set during the Cold War in 1957. It followed the story of a young boy named Hogarth Hughes, who discovered and befriended a giant alien robot that would become known as the Iron Giant. The story itself tells a heartwarming tale of a young boy who discovers a massive piece of alien technology resembling a large robot, and despite his clear affinity for war and destruction, the only thing the Iron Giant truly wants is a friend. And at the same time, so does Hogarth. Now, spoilers for The Iron Giant, but it ends, shocking I know, with a sacrifice. And this is truly the first story I ever saw when I was a young lad who really felt like it resonated well with the sacrifice. It really hit me hard. It was the first time I realized that a sacrifice could be an incredibly powerful moment for a character. See, the giant is attempting to protect all those around them while the military treats it as a weapon. And because they keep treating it as a weapon, it begins to act as a weapon, trying to protect, becoming violent, becoming dangerous, but it doesn't want to. It's fighting against its own nature. Until finally the military activates a bomb, a missile that is going to come directly towards the giant and, more importantly, hurt those around it, including Hogarth.
Missile is targeted to the giant's current position. Where's the giant, Mansley?
Well, we can duck and cover.
And the entire story, the giant is trying to figure out what it is. Is it a weapon? Is it a friend? Is it peaceful? Is it made for war? And it was taught one thing throughout the entire story, that there are people in the world who protect, such as Superman. And so as he looks down at Hogarth, smiles, and begins to blast towards the missile so that he can intercept it before it ever hits the town, he says the simple words,
You are who you choose to be.
Superman. Notice the difference here? Notice what makes the sacrifice work when the others just don't? It's not because of losing the giant that we feel for it. It's because of what the giant meant, why he was there, and what it means now that he's gone. Nostalgia relies on missing a time that has since passed. A sacrifice forces that sooner rather than later. Nostalgia is a powerful emotion in all of us because it causes us to wish for a time that is no longer there, a time we can no longer go back to. And a sacrifice really does force that. It causes us to begin to feel those feelings sooner, and grief and mourning, and we don't get the time to understand that something's gone. We don't have the time to prepare for it. It's just gone. That's what makes a sacrifice work in a story, and why a character sacrifice is so important, but it only hits hard when the character has done the work to be important to sacrifice. When the story has led to a moment where the character makes a choice that is meaningful because of the actions that have been taken prior. Now, you may have noticed I haven't actually mentioned TTRPGs hardly at all in this video, and that's because this concept, while applying well to TTRPGs, can apply to any story. But if you were to apply it into my preferred storytelling medium, in order to make this work, all you need to do is, when it's time to make a sacrifice, such as the different moments which I've talked about in my videos, which you can watch, I will put a little notification here, the moments that I've discussed hit because of the fact that the story made sense up until that point. It made sense for the character to do that. Fresh Cut Grass did that because it made sense. Fart Buckle did that because it made sense, because there's an emotional connection to the sacrifice, and the reason that they are being lost is connected directly into what makes that character whole. Really, that is the best that I've ever seen in any sacrifice. Take any sacrifice you've seen in media that truly has meant something. And usually it means something and it hits hard because the decision made to sacrifice is directly related to what made that character feel whole. Take Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. He sacrifices himself, and it's because the decision he needed to make himself whole was to decide no longer to be a villain, no longer to indulge in his dark side, to trust the other people around him to continue without him, to believe in the people, to care for once. That's what made him whole.
This is farewell. Bulma, Trunks, and even you, best buddy.
Vegeta, no! Vegeta! Yes!
If you think about Darth Vader's sacrifice in Star Wars, Darth Vader is somebody who sacrificed himself and finally made the decision to care about his family, to no longer entrust the dark side. The decision that made him whole. A sacrifice hits when it is something that is made to make that character whole, and that's what makes it so tragic, because they don't get to live the rest of their life in that moment of feeling whole. It gets cut down. They finally got it, they finally understood it, they finally became a self-actualized character, and now they're done. That is tragic, and it's what makes a sacrifice hit real hard. Ultimately, it's not going to mean anything unless the characters are actually giving up something, and that is one of the best. Giving up the life that you could have had finally feeling whole, so that others can go figure their own stuff out and live their lives whole. And that's good storytelling. So go out into the world, make it your own. Never forget to play a role. And she's not in the room again. She's not in the room to give the call to action. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about my belly bolt. And I'm actually really trying hard to hit 100K subscribers before the end of the year. It's kind of a lofty goal, but it would be a super wonderful Christmas present for me. So if you could hit the subscribe button, share this around. If it means something to you, comment anything for the algorithm, and it would mean the world to me. Okay, bye.
So, in the process of me editing this video, the election results were announced. And I tried really hard to figure out a way that I could incorporate what I wanted to say about it into this video, because I wanted it to come out as quickly as possible, and this was the only video I was working on at the time. And I just couldn't figure out a way to properly fit it in organically, so I'm putting it here at the end. So those who don't want to have a reminder of it can click away, and those who want a word of encouragement can stay. In this video, I talk about The Iron Giant, a beloved movie for many, many reasons. The whole point of the movie is that you get to choose who you get to be. You get to choose what you're going to do. And the climax of the movie is the Iron Giant flying towards the missile to save everybody around him as he thinks, who do you want to be? I want to be Superman. I want to save others. I want to be kind. And if you're like me, you woke up the morning of the results, if you even slept, because I barely did, and you felt hopeless. You felt like there was nothing else you could do. You felt like it was over. That was it. It was done. There was no longer any hope. But as I was reminded by a friend, that's not true. You get to choose who you get to be. You get to choose who you get to treat kindly. You get to choose what you're going to do today, and what you do is going to have a far larger impact on those around you than anything the government is going to do today, tomorrow, forever. Any change that has been made in the world has always been done on a personal level, on an individual level, and is when those individuals all work together that something gets done. So if you felt hopeless, if you feel hopeless, if you feel like there's nothing that you can do to improve the world, it's not true, because you can look to the person to your left and to your right, and you can go make a change. You can go do something for them. You can be kind. You could support them even if the government won't. You could support them even if the world is against them. You can love them. You can love. You can make a change. You can make a genuine, honest to God difference. Even if it feels like you can't do it on a macro scale, that's not where change gets made. It is on the micro scale of a bunch of people banding together to do so. You can make a difference today, even if it feels like you can't. So I'd like to request, if you watch this, choose one person, just one person who you love, and go do something for them today to let them know that you love them, that you support them, that you're behind them, that you're with them. And tell the story. You can go do it in the comments below. You could do it to a friend, but tell the story. And for those of you who feel like there's nothing you could do, please go down and look at the comments, and hopefully there are stories there of people who made a difference, of people who chose to do something today. Because that's what I'm gonna look at every single person around me, and I'm gonna make sure they're taken care of. Whether they're part of a marginalized community, whether they're part of something that they feel they're not going to be able to receive any support in, I'm going to be there for them. And you could do the same. Change was never made in a day. But if every day we make a change, it doesn't matter what the world is around us, because we have each other. Love you guys. Go play your role.